Um, so with me, legendary DJ Rhettmatic, EMC West Coast champ, two-time ITF world champ, uh,
Team World Champ.
team world champ. That's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Part of the legendary Beat Junkies. I mean, the list goes on from how many people you have scratched for, you have DJ'd for. I didn't notice this till tonight actually. I was reading a bit more about what you've done, and you did. If I'm not mistaken, when Ghostface did that mixtape for the Iron Man action figure,
Right. Yeah.
you were mixing that whole thing.
Yeah. So there was this cat. Man, I forgot his name right now. He actually kind of around the way I'm from. I'm from Shrewsbury, California, which is like a suburb 30 minutes away from Los Angeles, part of Los Angeles County. So it's like we're we're the borderline of Los Angeles and Orange County, like 15, 20 minutes away from Long Beach, Compton, Carson, and all that stuff. But
Yeah,
so the guy who put who his company was called Forecast. The guy who put the Ghostface doll together, uh, he reached out to me to do a mixtape. He says, "Yeah, I'm doing something with Wu Tang, especially with Ghostface." At first, I didn't believe him until he showed me the mock-ups and stuff like that. I was like, "Oh shit!" So uh, basically, it just says like if we were just building and stuff. And I says, "You know what? Let's do a mixtape and stuff." So and the idea, the mixtape was called 36 Deadly Darts, and it kind of obviously
yeah.
Wu Tang is into the Wu Tang. They're based upon 36 chambers and stuff. So what I did was based upon, of course, the concept of Wu Tang. Uh, um, I picked 36 songs of Ghostface Killer's song, and but it was kind of hard because he had he had besides his besides his Wu Tang uh, songs. I mean, he has also his solos
Yeah.
and his
Album,
guest albums and
mixtape.
guest appearance and stuff like that. So, uh, yeah, man, I want to say I put it at the same time when I made it and we dropped it is when Run came out. Run.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I was able to put that in there. So, but yeah, it was the concept of like of course, being a big Wu Tang fan and stuff like that, it says, yeah, of course, let's do it. Especially when I see originally he got the cosign from Ghostface, and then he sent me the drops from Ghostface, so it was like, okay, it's official and stuff like that. So
I fucking love that mix, man. I had no idea it was you until maybe what, an hour and a half ago.
oh snap,
I've been
okay,
listening to that shit for like 10 years now. And
wow.
yeah, just
Yeah.
dumbfounded.
Well, I mean, well, it's funny because of course, I went all out because I in my head it's like I want to do the best Ghostface. I mean, there's other people who've done great Wu Tang Ghostface, whether regardless of members, whatever, great Wu Tang tribute mixes and stuff. But I wanted to go out on some, obviously on some turntables, beat junkie style.
Yeah,
I wanted to impress not only the listeners, but I wanted to impress Ghostface. So
yeah.
that was my regardless if anyone liked it or not. If Ghostface liked it, then I was like,
That's what mattered.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
from the grapevine, I've never got to meet Ghostface until maybe 10 years later after the fact. And I happened to be hanging out. There's this club called a legendary club called Low End Theory
Hmm.
in LA. So it was, it's pretty progressive. It's like kind of like I want. It's not the birth of, but it's where a lot of people with the beat scene,
Yeah,
like Ross G, rest in peace, DiBiase, Ghost, Gaslamp Killer. Uh, my beat junkie brother D Styles was one of the residents. And I happened to be there hanging out, and he was there. I was like, everyone's like, oh shit, Ghostface, and And I actually came up to him and said, "Hey, man, you don't know who I am, but I'm from a crew called the BeatJunkies, and I did the mix for your Ghostface Killer Dolls." Oh, word, yeah, that's what's up.
And
So,
he's a big dude.
oh yeah, dude, I had
Yeah.
to had to look up. He's tall though,
Like
but nah.
I'm only assuming this from pictures I've seen, like online, of course. But
Oh
like,
yeah, he's
he
like at
looks like a
least
big dude.
he's at least 6. So I'm 5'8". He's 6 foot. So I'm like, you know. So, but yeah, so that was a cool thing and stuff. So, but yeah, that's where my mind frame was at to make uh, the mixtape for the mixtape for Ghostface Doll, and the mix is called 36 Deadly Darts.
Yeah. I have it on this laptop, and I play it seldomly now, just because mixing everything between editing and stuff. I rarely have time just to vibe out the music anymore.
Word,
Um,
word.
Still love that. Well, I want to dive into what you made later on, but going into it, I've only read, and that's just reading. But I want to hear from you, like your history of getting into turntablism. Like, what was you picking up that first record or seeing that first turntable? Like,
You're right. I've said this in many interviews and stuff like that. If people don't see it already, I'm Filipino American. Uh, my parents came from the Philippines. They migrated here to the United States, to California in 1968. Uh, this is where I show my age. I was born in Huntington Park, California in 1969. Uh, uh, it's a city within, it's part of East LA, and then eventually in '71 my parents moved to Cerritos, and I pretty much was raised in Cerritos. Growing up, I was really, I'm an only child, and I was really a shy introvert,
yeah,
uh, and so uh, just, but I was a nerd. I was very nerdish, to say. I mean, I wouldn't say I was smart in school, but I had nerd tendencies. Like I grew up watching Japanese anime, collecting comic books. You know, Saturday morning, whatever. But so growing up, I was lucky to experience when hip hop first came to the West Coast in like '83, '84.
hmm
And during that time, uh, uh, when you got involved in hip hop, you were at least involved doing 2 or 3, out of the 4 elements. At the time, everybody was, at least did 2. Some people were doing all of it.
yeah,
I first started off was a popper and a graph artist, right? And then I got into DJing eventually, especially in high school, like in high school, but between junior high and high school and stuff like that. So, um, I mean, I had friends that are old, they had older brothers and sisters that uh, were listening to hip hop already, even though we didn't know it was called hip hop. I mean, obviously, for a lot of people, Rapper's Delight and the Sugar King was like the first rap record they heard. But
right.
in LA and in the West Coast, especially in LA, I mean, we were listening to a lot of things. I mean, we were listening to new wave, rock, whatever. But eventually, then funk came in. Funk was really big on the
hmm
West Coast. I mean, I grew up listening to Zapp, Prince, The Time,
Yep.
Cameo. But then eventually, when hip hop started coming into LA and stuff, that was like, what is this? And I remember, besides, I mean, I didn't put Rapper's Delight, and so my first, I would say, official hip hop or rap song besides Rapper's Delight was Planet Rock by Soul Sonic Force.
Yeah.
I totally remember this because it was in junior high. Uh, there was a big circle during lunch. So I'm walking in, saw some of my homies and stuff like that, but I was still a nerd. I was quiet. And I just remember one cat just opened up his duffel bag, broke out a boombox. And, you know, you're not allowed to bring a radio, you know, into school and shit like that.
Yeah.
Popping a cassette, out came Planet Rock. I was like, what the fuck is this shit? I mean, I didn't say what the fuck, but, you know, just like, I was like, what is this? And all of a sudden I see all the other kids that, you know, like, I would say I was in 7th grade. I saw the 8th graders were like, they started popping. I was like, it blew my mind.
Yeah.
And from then on, I caught the bug. And then I started hearing, you know, like hearing from the older kids, yo, you don't know about this, or their older brothers had other, you know, then the older brothers were actually DJing and stuff like that, you know. So, I mean, it was, you know, and then eventually heard about, like, you know, other stations. We had, like, we had this station called KGLH, which is owned by Stevie Wonder. It was KCE. Both were FM stations. Then there was KGFJ, 12:30 a.m. And then, of course, if you Google it, everybody talks about it. A lot of us grew up listening to 1580 a.m. KDOI, which is the first, technically the first ever 24-hour rap station in the country. I mean, granted, New York had WBLS and Kiss FM, but K-Day was the one. It was an AM station. It was crazy because, like, they played everything hip hop, but they also played funk and freestyle music or Latin hip hop. With it, you know, freestyle would be like, you know, like Cover Girls or Trinier or Debbie Deb. You know, that's considered, you know, freestyle music or Latin hip hop. You know, it's more fast. It was like Planet Rock beats, but with singing on it. You know, of course, you know, listening to everything from Run DMC, L Cool J, anything that was coming from New York, they played it, right? But then eventually they started playing everything that was also local. I mean, Toddy T, King T, Egyptian Lover, World Class Wrecking Crew, which is Dr. Dre's old crew. Just, you know, LA Dream Team, Ice-T, obviously, you know. So it's, you know, so we got, at the time, you know, you got to understand the West Coast was a couple of years back behind New York.
Yeah.
You know, New York, hip hop started in New York. You know, everybody knows that. I mean, late 70s. It didn't come to the West Coast until like 83, 84. So, but eventually when I got, so to kind of fast forward, when I got into high school, pretty much, you know, I was still popping and graffitiing, but then DJing. You know, when I saw people start DJing and stuff like that, I've always heard about, you know, obviously Grandmaster Flash, seeing, you know, world famous Supreme Team, which is, you know, with Malcolm McLaren doing Buffalo Gals, hearing mixes, you know, on the radio by Egyptian Lover, Dr. Dre, you know, for at least from the LA, and then the K-Day Mix Masters, which is Tony G, Willie OG, Joe Cooley, DJ Aladdin, and then there's also Uncle Jam's Army, which is, you know, Egyptian Lover, Bobcat. Bobcat was part of the original Uncle Jam's Army. A lot of people also might know him later on for being one of the DJs for L Cool J and part of the LA Posse. So he helped produce. You know, he was part of the LA Posse to help produce L Cool J's second album, Bigger and Deffer. So anyway, but yeah. So what really got me more into DJing? So I was a freshman, and there was this cat who was 1 year older than me. Ironically, he's half Filipino, half white, and it was DJ Curse from the BeatJunkies. He was my mentor per se.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we went to high school. He was a sophomore. I was a freshman, and just to see him, he was basically Mike Hubert, you know, because growing up during those days, not to sound on some 8 Mile shit, but it was basically African Americans or Latinos, you know, that was heavy hardcore into hip hop. I mean, of course, it's white, and Asians were also. So what a lot of people don't understand that in the West Coast, Asians were a big part of the culture.
Yeah.
You know, whether they were dancers, whether b-boys or poppers, whether graph artists, or they were DJs. There were not really any rappers at the time, because
Yeah.
being Asian, we weren't very outspoken. We might even be outspoken with amongst each other, but outside of that, it was, we weren't that loud,
Pretty much a closed community, you know.
per se,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but Asian Americans have been part of the fabric of hip hop culture on the West Coast.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Of course, there's an inside joke that Filipinos are considered the Puerto Ricans of the West Coast. Being that,
I could I could totally agree with that statement.
and then and if you want to make it, there's even another inside joke that like Filipinos are like the blacks of the Asians, because of we have more darker skin, we have a lot of rhythm. There's a lot of rhythm to it per se.
Let me ask you this: Have you been back to the Philippines?
Yes. I'm back. Was back maybe 2 years ago for a family reunion and with my mom for celebrating my mom's birthday.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, I went back as an adult like in 2005. But I when I went back to the Philippines with my parents, I was young, so I only vaguely remember little things here and there and stuff like that.
I've been there 3 times now.
Right.
And I fucking love it, man. I went to a disc jockey in the Philippines, and one of their like top radio stations there.
Right.
And I was like, "Can you play Katawan?" And he looked at me like, "What the fuck? Who are you?" And I was like, "Play Katawan by Hagabis."
See, here's the crazy thing. You probably know more about the actual Filipino artists from the Philippines than I would know.
Really? I only know that one, but
that's more than me. Well, if you're gonna break it down, so my dad's Visayan and my mom's Tagalog. So Tagalog is obviously the main dialect for Philippines for Filipinos. So my dad's from Davao, Mindanao. Right.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so. But that's crazy that you actually know. I mean, it's slowly, but before when I went back to actually DJ, I've never DJ'd, like ironically, like maybe like Qbert, Mixmaster Mike, and all of them have DJ there. But me personally, I haven't DJ'd there until 2010. And it was I'll talk about that later. But it was a very emotional thing for me, because that's just knowing that this is where my parents are from and stuff.
Right.
And like, so you've been, obviously you got to travel and stuff. Like most of the time for hip hop in Asia, Japan is the epicenter, because Japan's cracking like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still cracking, but obviously you see, like you see South Korea's now, like with the b-boy scene over there is incredible. Right?
Just off the wall, man.
Off the wall. But I mean, compared to like other Asian countries, Japan was the shit. But Philippines, there was a people listen to hip hop, but it was very minute.
Right.
I mean, right? It's over there. My cousins only know pop shit.
Pop music, yeah. Pop music is huge over there. Yeah.
I mean, shout-outs to Black Eyed Peas. Those are my homies. It's the craziest thing is that I know Black Eyed Peas for such the longest time, when they were also known as At Band Clan. When they were also dancers called tribal style. So, obviously, when you think of Black Eyed Peas, you think of will.i.am and you think of Fergie. In the Philippines, Apple is the man. He's the man right there and shit like that. But like I said, they wouldn't know anything about like you know, like Run DMC. They want to know about Rakim. They want to know about,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
you
No,
got
no,
right,
I absolutely know because I mean, going there, you know, cats would be balling or they'd be fucking. I mean, I've even seen b-boys or even skateboarders, and they would be
right,
listening to pop music.
right,
I was, you know, culture shock. That
right.
was
But I mean, now there is a community. It's growing. I mean, it's pockets, but it's growing and stuff like that. Yeah. So Curtis is, like I said, I was telling you, he's, you know, he was my cuber, right?
right.
Because growing up, again, Curtis was the only, like, there were other, you know, there were a lot of Asian DJs, whatever, whatnot. But Curtis was the one I've seen someone that was like fucking it up, like like all the brothers or the Latino brothers, you know, cutting it up like that you can hear on the records. And I was like, yo, who is this guy?
Mhm.
And he got respect, you know. So this was like in 83, 84, growing up, you know. So the fact is, you know, so what that made me watching him DJ, seeing, he actually saw him how to do. He emulated the same scratches doing Rocket from Herbie Hancock, doing
Yeah,
what
yeah,
Graham Extra did. He was doing fit fresh. I was like, right? You only hear it on the records, you might see on the videos, but to actually see
yeah.
someone
The
do it,
person.
right, in person, and the fact that he wasn't black, he wasn't Latino, he was Filipino.
Yeah.
I identify with that. That made me like, I'm gonna go be a DJ.
That's fucking badass, man. I absolutely know the feeling of just seeing something in person and being like, I'm in a whole different realm right now.
Right.
Um, I think the way you explained it with the Herbie Hancock and just going with the fader fresh.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. I couldn't imagine. I couldn't imagine back then, especially when not knowing hip hop and then all of a sudden stepping into hip hop, you know?
Right. And again, and he, you know, he was 1 year older than me, so he's lucky that he's around, like, you know, cats. I was still, you know, freshman, still, I mean, nerd, introvert, you know, eyes wide, just like, oh. But yeah, I mean, you know, like I said, before there was Cubert, he was my Cubert and stuff. And the thing is, it's you being, you know, you being Iranian, so, like, you know, to see someone that's the same skin color, same face, the same, it that made me like, wow, that's incredible. To even to add more layers to it, most of, you know, we didn't like any heroes, like, you know, obviously with African Americans, with the blacks, they have so many heroes, obviously, from, you know, Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, you
Yeah,
know,
across the spectrum, politics,
just
sports, anything.
yeah, Michael, you know, like Michael Jackson, and, you know, Prince and stuff. Or, you know, even go to, for even with the Latinos, you know, they got, you know, Tito Puente, whoever, you know, like whoever, you know, but for someone, and then of course, you know, if you even talking with the Asians, I mean, obviously the closest we can say would be Bruce Lee. You know,
Yeah, and I don't mean to cut you off, but it was a very important thing that you just said. You felt comfortable, um, not to bring race into it at all, but because you identified, hey, that is a Filipino American, that is someone that, you know, that is my shit. How do you say it?
I mean, that's
Okay.
inspiration. Inspiration. He was my idol. I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
basically, yeah,
yeah.
inspiration. Yeah. So, I mean, like we had a role model per se. You know, like I mean, obviously Bruce Lee's the ultimate role model for a lot of people in general and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
But you know, and especially for Asians and stuff like that. But in terms of hip hop and something that this culture is rooted in Black culture and Latino culture, you know,
Yeah.
you know,
No.
so that was something that was like, yo, I mean, our we didn't have any heroes. Though. I mean, that was the closest heroes I had. Besides that, our parents. Our parents was our heroes. We didn't have any, you know, like any athletes or superstars, celebrities, whatever, whatnot. Not until Qbert won, you
Right.
know, and not until Qbert when he won the DMC. That was a big thing because it was mostly, you know, again, during those times, you know, I hate to say using 8 Mile as an example, but in hip hop during those days, you really had to you had to show and prove.
Right.
You're like, I mean, the term biting, you cannot bite somebody's style. You cannot copy his style. I mean, and it was one of those things too. It's like they do kind of like, in some ways they kind of look at your skin like, yo, you know, like, who's this chinky guy, dude? Like, you know.
Yo, I could totally relate because I mean, b-boying, you know, like you said, it was mainly Latinos. It was, I mean, Asians. It was African Americans, and then here's this kid walking up. What is he? Is he white? Is he Asian? Is he Latino? No, Middle Eastern. And this happened to be around when the Twin Towers fell, and they're like, "Oh, you fucking bombed this shit. Get the fuck out of here."
Right.
Should improve. I absolutely get it. You have to fucking bring your own shit.
Yeah, and then, you know, and it's like and for the most part, well, here's an interesting thing too. Growing up, you know, during those days, everybody kind of stick together. You know, like if you're Filipino, you hang out with Filipinos. If you're blacks, you hang out with blacks. You know, like, you know, it was I wouldn't say segregated, but, you know, it was cliquish in many ways and stuff, right? I was lucky enough that I was cool with a lot of people and stuff like that, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, so especially with hip hop, that kind of like,
you have to be personable.
Yeah. So, and of course, it was like you get hazed and stuff, but when they see you had heart, when you really are true to yourself, that's when you're like, yo, he's down. You know, it don't matter what it's like. You're there. They, you know, I hate to say the word authentic because we didn't, you know, just like, oh, he's cool. He ain't bullshitting and stuff like that. You know, so that was a thing too. So, but you know, especially coming from Cerritos, and then as I got older and wanted to know about hip hop and stuff, you know, of course, again, I'm telling you, like, growing up, you know, Filipinos were always into hip hop, Asians, but we were very, you know, had our own scene and stuff, right? They didn't really venture out. It was like a bubble. So, and for me and a couple of my other friends, we were like, man, this is cool and all. Like, I want to see the real shit. So, and in order to go to real shit, you got to go down to LA, like go to Hollywood, LA, downtown LA and shit. That was where really you had to go. And being that when we went there to start, when we start hearing about where to go and stuff and showing up, of course people look at, who are you? Like, you know, outsiders. We're not part of the scene. So there was, you know, same thing. Had to like swatch and then slowly but surely like keep on consistently going, and then eventually when the opportunity arose, had to show and prove.
Yeah, you had to play chess.
Yeah.
No, I totally understand, man. I it's like a mirror image. I understand exactly.
Right. But the irony of this too is also, I'm sure you can relate to this, and anyone that's like that doesn't understand hip hop, whatever, like that, especially growing up in those times, is like, you know, my parents didn't like it. You know, it's like, you know, like any immigrant ethnic parent, they want you to get education, which is understandable because they worked hard. They want you to get a better life, which is totally understandable. They didn't understand DJing and breakdancing. They see it. They thought it was a fad. They're like, you're gonna go to school for this? You can't get a degree. You know?
Yeah, you can't make a living off this.
Can't make a living off of this shit. You know, so because that's they don't. It was unheard of. It was fresh. It's not, you know, now compared to now, it's like it's a $1 billion business now. I mean, at least the music side of it, or even the b-boy side, depending where you're at. You know, like
exactly. Cross One and I had a discussion about this. Like, if you're gonna be a full-time b-boy, that's all you're gonna do. It's like those cats you see in Los Angeles, like LA proper.
Right.
You're gonna see like 10, 15 dudes in one condo, and that's all they do. Hit lab.
But you know, but eventually as you get older, you have to, you know, you kind of have, like, Cross is a perfect example, is that he knew how to, you know, take something that was passionate and turn it into a business, but still keep it the culture wise. But you know, that's the thing too, is like, obviously in hip hop, this is a culture. once you became a business, it's a whole different thing. But that's another conversation itself.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, going back to originally being Filipino and stuff, and going to the scene and stuff, it was like, yeah, you really had to work, really show improvement stuff. So it was on some 8 Mile shit. The duality of this, I was saying, going back to, that was what I was trying to say. Duality of this is that even my own, like Filipinos that weren't into hip hop, they were like, "Oh, you trying to want to be black?" So I used to have this. I had a term sometimes called, "Oh, look at this fligger," like wigger, but fligger.
Yeah.
Right. So, but the thing is like most of the times the people that I've really noticed is like you could tell who's really into hip hop and who just thought it was cool to be at the time. Because in high school it was like, oh, it was the cool thing to do.
Yeah.
As you get older, oh, that's played out. I'm doing all this stuff.
Even at the end of high school, it was like you could tell who thought it was just a fad and who really gave passion to it. Yeah.
Right. So I mean, again, so that's the duality of like, how to deal with even with the inner turmoil within the community and stuff like that. So, and my thing growing up, I mean, hip hop, honestly, not to sound cliche, it definitely helped change my life. It helped me define. It helped me define. It helped me get knowledge of self. It helped me even actually appreciate my own culture. Like,
yeah.
Like because of something like because of Public Enemy. Public Enemy's talking about Black Power. That's when then when Kid Frost came out with La Raza,
Yeah.
So you start to understand. It's like, be authentic to who you are, but but add to the mix. Like, don't take, add.
Right.
You go, like in anything, of course you're gonna take, but you have to flip it and make it your own.
And that's crazy you say that, because I want to talk about the BeatJunkies Institute of Sound later, because that's a beautiful project.
Oh, thank you.
I also want to tie in what you said. Hip hop saved your life, being you as a teenager, and I want to tie in. Would you give that same advice to these students that you are teaching? But that's later on down the line. I think that's a very interesting point you brought up.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, hip hop basically made me appreciate, because before, if you ever watched, there's this movie called The Debut. It's a Filipino movie. What's his name? Dante Bosco. He was you might have known him from Hook, but he was the lead actor. One of my friends actually wrote the movie, John Castro, who happens to be best friend. He's Filipino. He happens to be best friends with Peanut Butter Wolf, originally from the Bay Area. So anyway, so it's kind of like, if you watch that movie, it's kind of like the duality of like a lot of Filipino Americans grew up, like especially on the West Coast, is that we were immersed in the black culture because we can relate to it.
Yeah.
So I mean, most during those times, any type of any immigrant or ethnic, minority that grew up around hip hop can relate to that. So it was just like we grew up around that.
It's a way of it's product of your environment almost.
Totally. Product of, you just hit it right there. So I was surrounded by that. So learned a lot. So, but yeah, hip hop has definitely changed my life, has saved my life. So it's a culture wise, like it helped me, brought a shy kid out. If you met me, if you met me 30 years ago, the only talk would be like,
"Hey, man, Yeah, it's like I'm looking in a mirror right now. I mean, granted that I'm not a world class DJ, but same. You want to talk about me being 9, going into b-boying? I would be the kid that's like, yeah, he's not built for this. Now going in my 20s, it's like, yeah, this cat's pretty dope on an amateur level.
Right.
And then now my body is like, I have a 1-year-old daughter that's just running circles around me every day. Like literally, all I do is lay on the ground and she'll just climb on me, all this and that, and I'll just let it happen. But
I empathize with you, man.
you got kids, man.
I don't have kids. We call it. I do have god kids. So I'm one of the guys. One of the few the guys that's not married and have kids. But I actually I'm a caretaker for my mom and stuff. So
Yeah, yeah.
so
God bless, man. Like you said, the parents were the heroes, are
yeah.
the heroes.
Right.
Honestly, man, I think that's a big portion in the give back as well. Like you were saying, you have to be able to take care of your community, the future being the kids and your parents, and that's something I just morally believe in.
You know, and that's it's a cultural thing. You know, like I'm
Yeah,
sure it's
yeah,
the same
yeah.
thing. You know, it's like that's I was raised on in this culture. Like when I see, you know, when I see other Filipino families, it's like it's the thing. You know, we have this thing we call manong, where you take the elderlies, you bless their hands and stuff as a sign of respect and
Yeah.
stuff. So it's like, you know, being that it's crazy because it's born here. Now, you said you were born in Iran, right? And then, but
Correct.
what year did you move here?
When I was 3 or 4, but I remember it very vividly.
Okay.
Like
So I
very,
mean, okay, so you pretty much was raised on Western culture, but within the household, it's still Iranian, you know, Iranian culture, right? Or
absolutely.
Middle Eastern culture,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right? So it's the same thing. So at home, it's very definitely kind of Filipinoish. The irony, though, my parents did not teach me Tagalog, you know,
Really?
because from what I understand from my dad's want, you know, like he was afraid of me not being excluded, so he wanted me to be assimilated. You know, like, you know, so they would teach they my parents would talk to each other in Tagalog, but they talk to me in English. Of course, when they get mad, they'll cuss at me in Tagalog and shit.
Yeah,
Right, you know, but everything else was like, you know, obviously from food, the way how, you know, doing certain things and whatever whatnot
yeah,
was
yeah,
very
yeah.
Filipino. So the duality of this is that it's interesting. Obviously, and I think you can relate to. We kind of touch base on it. Is that here in the United States, we're not we're definitely a minority,
Mm-hmm.
right? Totally. But we're Americans. We're born here. We're whatever, raised here. You go back to your parents' home country. When I go to the Philippines, I'm not considered Filipino because I don't speak the you know I don't
Right.
speak the you know I
You're
can't
American.
Americanized.
You're different. You're wearing this clothes. You're wearing the clothes that. I mean, I can't go back to Iran. They'll fucking kill me.
Right,
But
right, right.
but you're wearing the clothes that no one else has. You have the money. You have, you know. I get it.
Certain, yeah. So it's the duality of what you have. It's like, but I'm Filipino, but I you know when I got older, I kind of I started seeing the craziest thing is that, you know, they'll talk shit if you're from America. They come over here. If you're from another country, from the Philippines or Asian, you're a fob.
That's
Crazy.
funny. Yeah.
It's so, but you see the duality. It's so crazy. It's just like, you know, but you know, like I'm here. I'm too Filipino. Over there, I'm not Filipino enough. Go figure.
Yeah.
But you know, but the thing is, I can understand Tagalog, not fluently, but enough, right? But enough to like, okay, they're talking shit about me and stuff like that. Or, oh, I kind of understand a little bit, especially if there's English words in there. But my culture, like, even though I'm Americanized, or westernized, whatever, I still have values, Filipino family values and stuff like that.
Yeah,
At
of
least,
course.
so that's the cultural wise and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
that's the duality of it. So
Let me ask you this: have you ate balut?
hell no,
Bro, are you kidding? I've
I
even
am
eaten
not.
balut.
Hey, like I said, you're probably more Filipino than I am. I would not eat
Fuck out of
balut.
here, man.
Man, fuck that. I am not cracking an egg, opening it up, and having the eye looking at me.
No, man. And honestly, I swear to God, it tastes like a Big Mac.
God bless you.
All right. I'm sorry. Let's get back.
I mean, before I wouldn't eat dinagon. I can eat dinagon now, but I would.
What is that? Is that the blood?
Yeah, the pig's blood.
I haven't tried that.
When it was growing up, see, I was traumatized.
Yeah.
They would tell us it was chocolate meat. Oh, it's so dark. Oh, it's chocolate meat.
Yeah.
Right?
I've heard that term too.
Oh, you say, chocolate meat, right? You're thinking chocolate with meat and chocolate sauce. Put it over. When I found out it was pig's blood, I was like, oh.
It was fucking funny you say that because delicacy in my country is like sheep's head, the brain, the tongue, and shit.
Right.
And my sisters, they were eating this sandwich and like, is this chicken? And my stepmom was like, yeah, it is.
Yeah, they
ate it.
Traumatized.
They're like, yeah, it's brain and tongue and this and this and this. Done.
Yeah.
They were done.
Yeah. I mean, now it's funny. I'm older now. I can eat it once in a while and stuff. But when I was young, because I was like, man, all I wanted was Big Macs and cheeseburgers and McDonald's, and that's it. I don't want
some balut, man. It's a Big Mac, bro. It tastes
hell no.
Wash it down with the Pepsi.
No. Well, like I said, I'm glad you can eat balut. Yeah, have a Red Horse with that. I mean, everybody knows San Miguel beer. But Red Horse is the one that you gotta be careful. Red Horse beer, you gotta be careful.
Red Horse, bro. I don't even drink. When I go there, I don't drink anything except San Miguel. Yeah.
Oh, word.